Okay, here's a demonstration of playing some Arkanoid with the A.I.R, which is going to be a wireless option. So in this case, sorry about the focus, but we have an Atari paddle. We're basically going to try out some Arkanoid here using the Atari paddle. So I'm going to relax my arm so I can actually try here. And let's see how this goes. Now you will notice that Atari paddles, they do have a little more of, I guess you could call it kind of a jitter. It's not really what it is. It's just the fact that the old analogs, you know, they have definitely lower tolerance for picking things up when you try to read it digitally. They weren't really intended for that. If you had an exclusive Atari paddle, I'm sure you could get better results. But by and large, that isn't going to really affect the gameplay. The gameplay really had a lot of scope built into it. It doesn't shake when it's, you know, completely stationary, but you will find that some paddles shake more than others. Now, just to kind of explain how this works with the paddles, if you have one paddle that works better than the other, first paddle that's going to be used is what we commonly refer to as the dial paddle or paddle A, but it's kind of hard to figure out which paddle is what because, well, they look the same. But find out what paddle works, and then if you think it's a little too jumpy, move it all the way to the left. And now that it's all the way to the left, you can pick up the other paddle, and now that paddle will be working. So the reason that works that way is that when the paddle's all the way to the left, it registers as 0, and the bridge code looks for that 0 and says, well, you obviously don't want to use that paddle, so we'll use the other one. Now this paddle has a little more bounce to it than that other one did. So that's why I like to use that one. So what I typically do is I bring it all the way to the left, and then I switch out to that other paddle, and now that other paddle takes over. And I think this one's a little smoother. But alright, let's have a look at this setup and see what's involved here. Okay, here on the other end I currently have it connected to a battery pack, and of course it's connected to some sort of an adapter. Now in this situation there is also a port that you can see on here. If I can focus in, there is a battery terminal right next to that green LED where you can connect a battery to it. And you can also plug it into a USB port if that's what you prefer. There's multiple ways of running power to this thing. I just have it connected to a battery pack. And it too is sending, you can see the LED is blinking. And then along the chain we have, you know, the cable connected in the cattail. Here's the actual paddles, and what I was saying earlier, what you can do if there's a certain paddle that you have that you like. If this is the main paddle that's working and you like it, good to go. If you don't, turn it all the way to the left, and now this paddle will work. If you want to use this one again, just simply bring it back into action. It will ignore this one. So laying everything out side by side, on the bottom there we have the bridge cable, and that would go into a console of choice. It can also work on a computer or anything else. If you want to use it on a computer, you obviously don't need the bridge. And then of course you have the antenna. Then up on the other side, up on the top, we have its antenna, and it's connected to an adapter. You can use any adapter that supports the low-level API, which is all the Bliss-Box products, of course. And then you have its cable and the controller you want to use, and then some sort of a battery source. In this case, I use the power pack. Using the small batteries, I've noticed them work up to 6 hours. If you don't do continuous gameplay, they'll last up to multiple days. And then of course there is always there's going to be a jumper on the bottom of the board that you can remove or set in a certain configuration that will save life on the battery. So the batteries will probably last quite a while. And one of the neat things about this is if you buy 2 batteries and you plug one into each port, that would be, let's see, one into this guy here, and then one into that one. And you had one plugged into a console or a computer where it's receiving the signal, that battery can be charging while you're using the other battery. So when that battery dies, you just swap the 2 batteries, and then you can continue to game. So you're really not going to have a battery issue on this wireless module, it's kind of non-existent. But there's a lot of power options, so you can pretty much choose what you want. The other big question about this is going to be latency. The reason I demoed the paddles is because with a paddle type game like that, if the latency isn't pretty fast, you're going to notice it and the game's not going to be playable. And if you reach anywhere around, let's say 6 or 8 milliseconds, you're going to see that lag and when you swing that paddle from left to right. But this adapter, the latency is pretty low. Somewhere around 1 to 2 milliseconds a round trip. And it's just non-existent when you play any games that have paddles or anything like that. So that's why I chose that. But there's a kind of a quick demo. The next following demo should have the case and everything assembled, so we get to see how it's going to look. And 2025 is going to be the year where that's released, so that should be coming up in a few months. Thanks for watching.